Hey guys, this is Frankie Edgar, and you're listening to Submission Radio.
Hey, this is Rich Franklin.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Lieben.
This is Diego Sanchez, Randy Couture,
Alistair Overeem.
Hi, this is Stephen Bonner.
This is Don Fry.
Hey, I'm Phil, Mr. Wonderful Davis.
TJ Dillashaw.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
Submission Radio.
You're listening to Submission Radio.
Welcome to Submission Radio, episode 188. Dennis Grav here with Kasper Ozolowski on a lousy, cold winter morning. It's June the 12th, a Wednesday, here in Melbourne, Australia, coming at you straight out of Melbourne. It's cold outside, Kasper. It's windy. I've seen a few people fly across the street, but nothing stops Submission Radio in its tracks. UFC 238 in the books, and what a lineup we have for the fans today to celebrate what was, I gotta say, man, what a great pay-per-view the UFC put on this past weekend.
Dude, it was awesome. And you're absolutely right. Submission Radio is the train that does not stop rolling. Choo-choo, motherfuckers. As we unveil this sexy lineup, we've got the champ herself, Valentina Shevchenko, coming off that brutal, devastating, nasty knockout over Jessica Eye. She's going to be on the program. She is going to be last on the show. So strap yourselves in and wait for it, because we've got some fun people to chat to. In the meantime, we've got John Morgan jumping on the program to dissect this week's action, not only UFC 238, but some of the big stories happening in MMA at the moment. Alex Volkanovski, they call him the Great. He came off a win over Jose Aldo just this last month at UFC 237. Had a somewhat near-death experience over in Chile, spent some time in the hospital, and then Frankie Edgar gets announced as the next title challenger to Max Holloway's featherweight belt. There's a lot to discuss with Alex Volkanovski. Eugene Berriman of City Kickboxing saying that Israel Adesanya is willing to push his own title fight against Robert Whittaker so that Volkanovski can fight on that card. Oh, there's a lot to speak to Alex about. I can't wait. Dan Hooker himself facing James Vick in Texas. I can't wait. It's happening next month. Dan Hooker, arguably heading the charge for MMA in New Zealand. He's a fun guy. Always hilarious times. And last time we spoke to him, he was getting his real estate certification license. What's the deal there? How many houses has he sold now? Billions? Trillions? Zillions? All possibilities. So we'll find out exactly how many in a moment. So yeah, it's a cold day in Melbourne, but it's a hot, sexy show here, around the world, and in your ears.
That's right. And I have the gypsy flu, but don't worry, I have the coffee here. The coffee helps Dennis feel things when he can't feel things anymore. So you have that to look forward to. And if you hang around to the end of the episode, Kasper, I watched the new X-Men Timothy Johnson mustache rating coming at you guys. But with that, a quick reminder, leave us your comments below. Tell us what you think of the episode. Your thoughts on UFC 238. Of course, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. One of our guests is on the line though, Cass. And without further ado, he's ready to go. And I believe you're about to introduce him.
All right, guys. Our next guest is a show regular. Hell, he's practically a cornerstone of Submission Radio programming. If there was ever a Submission Radio Performance Institute, there'd definitely be a John Morgan boardroom named after him. Shit, there'd probably be like an entire wing and a bar named after him. You know him from his excellent work at MMAJunkie.com and almost every big UFC event. One of the faces of MMA media's Mount Rushmore, John Morgan himself. Welcome back to your second home, John, man. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here. I'm assuming all that is stored in the Luke Rockhold wing of the Institute somewhere. Is that
this guy? A regular listener. That's how we know you love us.
Listen, Luke Rockhold's got a whole Submission Radio country, John, all right? And if he didn't, there'd be something seriously wrong with our budgeting. Me and Cash live on the streets, by the way. But let's put all the grand intros aside, John, and let's get into some brutally serious business. Tom Cruise versus Justin Bieber. Who are you picking and why?
I mean, you got to go with that fight. It's got to get done. I mean, the public can't be denied what it wants, right? I mean, this is how things come together. And I think we all know the reason we want to see it is that Tom Cruise would certainly reign supreme. I mean, the man he's crafty. He's got veteran savvy. He's been there. He's done that. Yes, Bieber's kind of got that upstart youth, but I think he's a little too cocky. It's a little too early in his career right now. To me, it's Cruise all day.
I remember analyzing Bieber versus Bloom 1, and I thought Bloom looked good in that one. So I'm picking Tom Cruise as well. But I hope we get to see Ethan Hunt, not Tom Cruise. I think that would be even better. While we're talking, Conor McGregor obviously sent out a few tweets as well. Got involved in the action. No surprises there. Saying McGregor Sports Entertainment would host the fight, and he'd fight Mark Wahlberg. No real surprise there, but what did you think of hashtagging DAZN?
Yeah, he likes to stir the pot a little bit, doesn't he, man? I thought that was a little bit crazy, no question about it. I mean, hey, listen, if he, and now obviously he couldn't fight in it, but I mean, listen, these stupid articles and these stupid stories are so dumb. But you know what? I can tell you as somebody that has the analytics to MMA Junkie, they do amazing traffic, and it's why we have to write the stupidity of them. So the thing is, I mean, well, look, I mean, how many people watch that KSI boxing match or whatever? I mean, right? It is bizarre that if you were to actually find a way to get this done, millions of people would watch it, even though it's ridiculous. So, yeah, Conor, listen, the man likes to make money. I bet he'd get in on some of that if he could.
Wow, that would be absolutely unbelievable. And, of course, there's going to be a lot of other dream matchups that we could make. I mean, Tom Cruise would be in there, but you got to get Denzel Washington in there. I feel like that guy could do stuff. Jamie Foxx, Vince Vaughn in the heavyweight division. There's a lot of great matchups there. Celine Dion, she's back and she's better than ever. If you think her voice is bad, wait till you see her fighting. Damn, it's crazy. Pointy hands. All right, in all seriousness.
The mind just goes.
Yeah, if anyone saw that James Corden, I mean, she looks like she's primed and ready to fight. Let's talk about UFC 238 this past weekend, though. Because before we even talk about the fights or what's next, what did you make of Tony and the way he handled Fight Week and Media Day? There were a ton of questions surrounding Tony's private life and mental health. Tony didn't really give any deep answers. He even sort of leaned on you, John Morgan, to answer it to the media. Do you feel like this win has kind of made people forget about some of his recent personal issues? Or do you think because so little has been spoken about and talked about, this is something he's going to have to lean on you permanently to avoid more questions from the media?
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to be at all of his media interviews from now on. But no, you know what? Of course, I had those exact same questions. I had him for a pre-fight interview on Wednesday of Fight Week, and it was just a one-on-one. And I was a little worried. How's he going to come into this interview? Is he going to come in with a chip on his shoulder? Is he going to be angry? What's it going to be like? And he definitely answered all my questions. He didn't necessarily just give all the details. But I thought the most revealing was post-fight. He said. He kind of touched on it one more time at the post-fight press conference. He's like, listen, my fans, the fans that really care about me, they know who I am. They see me on social media. They see what I'm posting. They see that I'm doing okay. I don't want to just get into this TMZ type discussion. So he was never defensive about it. I think he was always open and understanding that he was going to have to address those issues. He definitely made me feel good going into the fight that he was in a good spot. I was worried just like everybody else. Is this guy, is he right now, physically, mentally? Does he need to be fighting? He alleviated all those concerns for me. Instead, he even kind of had some fun with it, leaning on me. John, do you want to answer that for me? And, I'm just going to tell you right now, if you get a chance to drop an F-bomb in a media scrum, you do it. You know what I mean? You take advantage of it. So yeah, no, it was fun. And, Tony's a unique guy. I always tell it, it's so funny, man. Tony Ferguson, I remember coming off The Ultimate Fighter, in his first media day in the Palms when he's nobody, but he's wearing a suit and he's got sunglasses on. I'm like, who is this guy, man? I don't know if I like this dude. And then you get to know him and you just see what a character is, and he is an interesting guy and, of course, a phenomenal fighter as well. So, listen, I think those questions are probably going to still come up because I don't feel like he's answered every last little detail. But what I think he figures is that I don't need to answer every last little detail. You guys know a lot about what happened. I'm telling you I'm fine. I'm doing what I need to do. Me and my family are good. Don't worry about me. Now, he says it a little bit more colorful, but he says, don't worry about me. Worry about yourself. I'm good.
I would have loved it if in that moment he's like, John, and you're like, he's got horrible family issues. He's like, John, he's not ready for the fight, and he won't tell anybody about it. John, you're like, I don't know what's going on with him. And like, John, what did you do to me? Nah, it's awesome. John Morgan. And I'll tell you what, if you couldn't get it out of him in your pre-fight interview, none of us have a chance of getting it out of him in the future because we've seen this John Morgan man speak to Fabricio Verdum about the same incident 3 days in a row and always figured out a way to pull it out of him when he's like, I'm just talking about the fight, guys. I don't want it to blah.
I mean, I don't want to ask about it. Obviously, I don't. But there's people who want to know. So do you want to address those people?
I just feel like if I ever get in an argument with Ash, my girlfriend, I'm just going to call you up and be like, John, it's like, he's not in love with you anymore. John, he wants to move on to another woman. John, he's got other options out there. No, I'm just kidding. All right, now the big question is, What's likely to happen with Tony Ferguson next? He wants to be super active. He's not really calling people out. It seems like the no-brainers for him to sort of fight the winner of Khabib. But Dana did say recently that Conor might fight Khabib next. Also, people are saying that Dana might be looking at doing this rematch between him and Cerrone. So what do you think happens to him next?
I hate it because what needs to happen next is he needs to fight for the UFC lightweight title, and I just don't think it's going to happen. I mean, the things that you're laying out, you're seeing all the clues like we are. You're seeing the writing on the wall, I mean, listen, a rematch wouldn't be the worst thing ever. On my personal card, I had it even going into the third round, but I'm admittedly a Cowboy homer for life, so I was probably leaning that direction. I think it was clear where the momentum was. I think the third round, was clearly going in Ferguson's favor, so I thought it was even. But if you look on the judges' scorecards, two of them had it 20-18 going into the third. So, he had basically already clinched up a decision. So a rematch would not be the worst thing ever. I mean, the hype around that, the excitement around it was great. But I do feel like we had the answer to who was going to win that fight. But I think it's all going to come down to what Conor does. And if Conor is healthy and Conor's ready to go, it just seems like they're going to line up Conor for the winner of Khabib and Poirier and give him a title shot. And I don't blame the UFC for doing that. I mean, they're a business, and he's a star. I mean, you guys understand it. I mean, if you get an interview with Conor McGregor, it does huge. You know what I mean? That's the biggest star in the history of the sport, and he generates the most revenue. So, unfortunately, I think they're going to find a way, provided Conor McGregor wants to fight again, to stick him in front of Tony Ferguson. And I hate that. I hate it. Because I feel like if anybody deserves a shot at the lightweight title, it's Tony, man. The record is there. It's flawless. It's impeccable. He had a title. He never lost it. It was taken away. And if things work out the way they should work out, he fights for the title next. And I hope that's the way they work out. I'm just scared that it's not going to work out that way. I
hope so as well. But if we are being realistic, but also kind of negative but realistic at the same time, and this rematch does happen with Conor and Khabib, do you reckon Tony fights again? Because he did say post-fight that he really wants to be active, and he didn't really call anybody out. It almost seems like he's expecting it as well, that he's going to have to fight again.
Yeah, I know. I think he kind of understands it too. I think he sees it as well. I think he'll fight again. And look, I mean, look at the winning streak Tony's on. I mean, I'm sure he believes that there's nobody in the lightweight division that he can't beat. So it's not like he will look at it as a huge risk, I think he believes he can beat anybody. And hell, he probably can. He's that good. I don't think he'll sit around and wait. I don't think he'll sit around and wait. If I was his financial advisor, I'd say sit around and wait. Yeah. I mean, you've got that opportunity at title, and look. I mean, look at the bad luck and look at the unfortunate incidents that have happened over and over and over. If they're telling you, hey man, wait, and you can have the winner, wait and take the winner. That would be my advice. But I don't think that's the way Tony Ferguson looks at the world.
And I mean, one of the interesting scenarios would be if Dustin does beat Khabib. It's unlikely to happen, but if he does, then you can almost set up this Khabib-Conor rematch. That's huge in its own. And then Dustin can fight Tony for the title. That could be something that makes sense. But again, that's a big if Dustin can pull it off. Now, let's look at Henry Cejudo's incredible comeback win over Marlon Moraes to become the UFC's fourth dual champion. What a crazy 10 months it's been for him. I still remember him sort of being expected to lose to DJ in the rematch. Now he's holding two belts. His stock has just exploded. And even though he hasn't gotten the streak that DJ had, how would you compare his the UFC legacies given what Cejudo's done lately, especially with the fact that he's got that Olympic gold medal around his neck everywhere he goes, and there's that Wiz Seinfeld king hat that he wears too?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's hard to match that complete win streak of what Demetrius Johnson has, but already Henry is more of a star, I think. Henry is more meaningful. He's more popular, even if some people hate him. He's embraced that king of cringe. I love it. He is a kind of an awkward, cringy dude, and he's embraced it. I think it's awesome. The performance itself was phenomenal. I mean, I think that he proved to the world just what a great fighter he is. I actually took Marlon Moraes in that fight. I thought Marlon was going to win the fight, and I watched that opening round play out, and I was like, yep, see, told you. This is exactly what I knew was going to happen. And then Henry Cejudo dug deep, realized he couldn't stay in kickboxing range. He's got to move forward. Started pressing the action, and Marlon started to fade a little bit. And Cejudo got an impressive victory here. Now, then it's interesting that, the folks that he calls out on the mic afterwards, I thought were a little bit intriguing. I mean, I get it. He's looking for the biggest names possible, the biggest money possible. So I don't fault him for throwing those names out there. But, if he really wants to I know it may sound weird because I guess to a lot of people, beating Uriah Faber, beating Dominic Cruz may add more to a legacy. But to me, I don't see it that way. I think those guys are Faber definitely is. I mean, he keeps himself in good shape, and we'll see how he looks in Sacramento. But Cruz has been out for a long time, and I want to see him fight Aljamain Sterling. I want to see him fight Peter Yan. I want to see. I don't think he's going to go back to flyweight anymore, man. I just the way he answered it, I don't think he wants to do that cut anymore. So I don't necessarily see more flyweight matchups for him. But I'd like to see him beat the top contenders. I get why he threw those names out there, but I'd really like to see him beat some number one contenders.
I'm always in favor of seeing fighters earn more money. So I was thinking, like, man, this guy needs to ask for more money, like maybe even post-fight. He's got 2 belts, and he did it. So I was really happy to see that. But you mentioned it, the flyweight division. Like, the way Dana White, confirmed, inverted commas, confirmed that the flyweight division is sticking around, it was like, is it sticking around? Yeah, it's sticking around. Yeah, let's just confirm it. It was like, is it really, though? Like, flyweights have been released. There's literally not enough guys now to fill the top 15. And like you said, Cejudo doesn't seem like he's coming back. So they may not even really have a flyweight champion. So do you really think the division actually sticks around? I mean, who would even be champion at this point? And why would they keep it around in that reason?
I mean, I'd like for them to keep it around. I think the flyweight division is great. But as you said, they've let a lot of people go, right? I mean, maybe it's a good thing. That means they can start bringing some people back. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the way you confirmed it, if anybody didn't see it, was, every time something comes up in the flyweight division, people are like, hey, is it sticking around? He was like, did I say it's going away? Did I say it's going away? And I was like, so I asked him at the post-fight press conference, I said, well, let's ask it the other way around then. Will you say it's staying? And he's like, yeah, confirmed, it's staying. But then, to your point, like 5 minutes later, somebody asked about the UFC going to Vancouver, and he was like, I don't even know if that's done. Just say it is. It's fine.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. So, yeah, no, listen, man, it is scary because it did seem like the best thing, almost, I don't say best, but like if you wanted the flyweight division to stick around, would be Cejudo losing. So at least he'd be motivated to go back to 125 and keep defending that belt, And now that he doesn't, I'm not sure, but I don't know. Listen, I mean, they can get rid of the division and they'll be fine. They'll move on. I mean, it's not like there's any huge, massive stars. Cejudo's probably as big as they come right now. I mean, Joseph Benavidez is a big name, but they'd be fine without it. But I really do hope they decided to keep this weight class around because there's a lot of guys that would benefit and that hopefully they could bring back into the mix. The good thing is they're the UFC, so you said it. I mean, there's down to like 10 people in the flyweight division. The good thing is they are the UFC. They could literally go sign 25 people in one day if they wanted to. You know what I mean? So if they decide to reinvest in the division, they can do it in quick order.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy because sometimes cards don't have fights, defending champions, and all that kind of thing. So it's crazy to me to get rid of a division, especially when so many fans love that division. I mean, especially I feel like that division's like a love letter to the hardcore MMA fans who really enjoy seeing high level technique and crazy movements, and it's just crazy to me to see this division not sticking around. And speaking of divisions not sticking around, John, Chris Cyborg has expressed interest in testing out the free market after her next fight. Her and the UFC have always been at odds, and it seems like the relationship has just never really progressed. The UFC have seemingly not really looked into extending her contract. Why do you think they aren't all that interested in keeping her around? And do you think we'll see her stick around after her next fight? Do you think she moves on? And if she does that mean the division sort of moves on as well?
I think she definitely tests the market. I just don't know how many places there are out there for her to land. I mean, maybe, you go fight one-offs in Japan. I suppose maybe the Pro Fight League could do something with you, but I'm not sure. Maybe she'd want to, if they go into a lightweight division, she'd move up a little bit, fight Kayla Harrison. I don't know. I mean, there are options on the table, and I think it's good for Cyborg to go out there and research and really see what her market value is. I mean, that's what it's all about. You think you're worth X amount of dollars, go see what you're actually worth. I don't know that the UFC is going to be incredibly interested in fighting for her. If they can make it work, I'm sure they will. She's still marketable. She's a star in Brazil. She's a star here. But, that loss last time out changed a lot of things, again, that division is never been much of a division, right? I mean, they've never even had like a full division listed on the website because there's not enough people for it. So I would not be shocked to see them let her go, and then maybe you just do one-offs here and there. I mean, Amanda Nunes having 2 belts, that's a great marketing tool. And maybe there are little one-fight shots here and there you want to build. But, I don't ever see them having like 30 or 40, 145-pound women on the roster. So for that reason, I'm sure they feel like, hey, we'll keep Cyborg if we can. We know she's a star, but we're not gonna break the bank for her.
I guess the silver lining is that it's good that we did get to see her in the UFC. It's something that people wanted for a long time. We never did get that monster matchup with Ronda Rousey, but nevertheless, Cyborg did have a good run. She had some really memorable fights and memorable moments, some even in her hometown, so I think that was really good for her. But on a side note, in other news, Chris Weidman finally announced his move up to 205. And it's something that, people have been calling for a long time. What do you think of him finally making that decision? How do you think he fits into the division as it currently is? There's a lot of new faces coming up those ranks now, but he's actually a known name, unlike those new guys, and a former champion as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like the move. I mean, he's a big dude. Him, Luke Rockhold as well. Both guys, big dudes, man. That just just not healthy to get down to 185, man. Just nasty, nasty cuts. And I think, seeing them fight at their, more natural weight for them, I think is going to be great for both those guys. And I think they're going to be immediate contenders in the division. As you said, some of the names are going away. Obviously, we saw some key retirements right in that division. There are some upcoming talent as well. But those are established stars, and that's the great thing is you can slot them anywhere. Chris Weidman can fight anybody in that division. I mean, maybe you couldn't put him up against a champ right away, but there's nobody else in the division that you couldn't pair him up with immediately. I don't think so. It's a good thing. I think it's smart for him. I really, really do. I think he's going to have success. I think this is going to help extend his career.
I love it because you got these guys with name value, and it looks like his body's just breaking down, trying to make the weight and training at that low weight. So we might get a few years out of Chris Weidman in this division. Now, let's quickly talk about Bellator 222. You are there in New York. You're ready to go. It's going to be a fantastic card. We see Chael Sonnen's going to be fighting Lerda Machida, Blast from the past, McDonald's fighting Gracie. Tell us, what are some of the fights fans are sort of sleeping on this card, and what are some of the things you're excited about? I mean, this is New York City. This is MSG. This is a big deal.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm actually in my hotel room now. It overlooks Madison Square Garden, just right across the corner. So it's really cool to see. But listen, probably the best card Bellator's ever put together, top to bottom. I mean, it's phenomenal. I like what they did. That they, when they originally announced this event, Machida and Sonnen was the main event, and that's okay. I get it. That's your marketing. Those are known stars, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, they kind of came to their senses, so to speak, and put Rory McDonald and Neiman Gracie as the actual main event. And I appreciate that. It may be a small thing, but I appreciate them doing that because I think that's the right way it should be. But listen, Darian Caldwell versus Kyoji Horiguchi, the rematch. I am super stoked for that fight. We already saw it play out in Japan. How cool is that, right? Bellator working with the Japanese promotions.
I was there live, John, covering it live. Can you imagine over New Year's?
How cool is that, to see that talent exchange, man? I dig it. So, yeah, you saw the fight. And listen, I don't think anybody watching that fight wouldn't say that the fact that it was in a ring had something to do with the way it played out. I mean, there were a couple sequences in the fight that if it was up against the cage, the positioning would have been a little bit different. The sequences made a little bit different. So I'm excited to see that play out again. And I'm excited to see, if being in a cage does anything different. But again, I'm just excited that they're doing this champ exchange program, sending them back and forth, man. I think that's awesome. But, you look at the prelims, and a lot of times with Bellator, they just use local ticket sellers. And that's not the case here. They've got, Aaron Pico's on there against Adam Borix. You got Heather Hardy's returning. Phil Hawes, the super prospect that has had some issues over the years, never quite panned out. He's on there. So I think there's some fun fights. They slipped in Hobson Gracie on there. So I honestly, I feel like top to bottom, this is one of the better cards they've ever put together because even the prelims have some fights that matter, which isn't always the case with Bellator events.
Well, I think everybody knows at this point where they can check out the best coverage, and of course it's going to be MMAJunkie.com. You're there, you're live in New York City, John. Really appreciate the time. Follow the man at MMA Junkie John, and I'll tell you what, if you're not listening to the MMA Roadshow, what are you doing with your life? Are you really doing anything with your life? I don't think so.
Bunch of
deviants.
Horrible decisions.
Bunch of freaking deviants.
Terrible decisions.
Get on the MMA Roadshow. You never know who's going to be on. I'm sure, Derek Lewis is just overdue for a random appearance now. Fighters stopping by left, right, and center. John Morgan, Sexy Crew. John, thank you so much for jumping on, man. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Always a pleasure, guys.
Hey, this is Tony Okagui Ferguson, and you guys listen to Submission Radio. Keep tuning in, guys.
All right, guys. Our next guest is the #1 ranked UFC featherweight in the world, going down to Brazil and beating Jose Aldo. This man has been undefeated in the UFC, riding a 7-fight win streak. As a matter of fact, his only professional loss was in 2013. I mean, that's pretty crazy statistic right there. It's a pleasure to welcome one of our own, one of the guys putting Australian MMA on the map, Alex the Great Volkanovski. Welcome back to Submission Radio. And you come into us from a pretty sweet site. Looks like a nice stadium there. Sort of relieving your NRL days, Alex.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Footy Stadium. I don't know if you can see that.
Wow.
Yeah, over here. No, that's where our Bay Med is anyway. So where I do my strength and conditioning. Mate, what an intro. How good was that intro, mate? That sounds unreal.
Nice intro. Nice.
It
nice
all goes
view.
downhill from here, Alex. We'll be honest, but it's good to have a highlight in the interview.
I'm not surprised. That was beautiful.
Really appreciate you coming on the show, man. We obviously understand you're back in the swing of things in training. Apparently, you're just doing battle ropes just moments ago. That's how kind enough you are to join us right after battle ropes. How is the body feeling though? Give us the update.
It was good, mate. Yeah, I just finished battle ropes on the phone to use. I don't even look puffed, mate.
No?
It shows you I'm in nick. I'm in good nick. I'm always in good nick. That the hospital didn't, and the leg didn't slow me down, mate. Slowed me down for a little bit, but yeah, all good now. Body's good.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, though, because things weren't so good in that hospital. I believe it was in Chile. You were talking about your leg at the lowest point, at the worst point. How bad was it looking? What were the doctors saying?
Well, look, there was a language barrier there, like being in Chile, them speaking Spanish. And that. Luckily, Joe was with me, my head coach, Joe Lopez, from Freestyle Fighting Gym. He was with me through the whole trip, which helped a lot. So I'm very thankful that he was there. But, you know, it was just, look, it was, and I know it sort of hit the headlines, like, oh, almost chopped his leg off and stuff like that. I think they just ran with a bit of the story that, you know, they sort of maybe worded a little bit different. It could have went that bad. Obviously, people that get bad infections and then they go through the tendons and bones and ligaments, yeah, that can be fatal. That can actually kill you, and it can, you know, cause like, you know, chopping a leg off or whatever it is. So lucky enough, we're pretty close, but the infection didn't get into my tendons and all that. So I was lucky with that. We'll put it this way, if I was end up jumping on that next flight or that little bit longer, there was a good chance we would have had it in there anyway. So luckily, I had to make that stop in Chile. Otherwise, you know, a couple of hours in on that next flight, we would have all been half dead. People would have known something's up. We would have to turn the plane around. By then, you know, it would be too late. Obviously, the damage is done. I would have had serious problems. But, you know, that's sort of what I meant. That's what I said. But then they're like, oh, he almost chopped his leg off. But you know, it was all right. Made a good story anyway. I should just run with it anyway.
That's crazy. Oh my! How do you look back on that? Like you just said, if you had caught a different flight or if they weren't able to stop, we might not even be talking right now, and you know things could have been very very different. And it's crazy. Like, true to the Aussie spirit, you're very laid back about it. But do you sort of look at that as like, oh my God, like that could have been a near death experience? Like I might have been out of there.
Well, like realistically, I should have been on that 12-hour flight to New Zealand or Australia, but they took us somewhere. The flight went to somewhere else in Brazil, then to Chile, then we were going to go to New Zealand. So usually it wouldn't be that many flights. So if I just done that in one flight and then, you know, I was feeling shitty by then, but I didn't think nothing of it, I would have went on that next flight, and then halfway through that flight, we would have known. Like, we literally had to make a decision, turn the plane around to get there quicker or keep going. And by then, again, I would have had serious problems. So it was luckily I had that 2 stopovers. You know, usually people, you know, you're dreading that. Who wants to do two stopovers? But I guess I sort of got lucky with that, because it would have been really bad if I was still stuck on the plane. And obviously the pressure made things worse as well. All that pressure and from eating so much in my leg, you should have seen, honestly, when you've seen the photos, that was nothing. Straight away when I first went to the hospital, from the plane, and because I hold a lot of water, especially after fights, every time I'm on a plane, my ankles go big as it is. Then with the trauma and then the infection and all that swelling as well, it looked unbelievable. Like, I wish I'd shown you even my shoe. Like, I had it that like loose, like the laces were fully undone and fully opened, and like it was just funny. If I could show you how the shoe was, and you'd blow out.
Wow.
It's just ridiculous. It was that fat. Like, honestly, I didn't have any ligament damages or, you know, nothing in my leg, but my ankles sort of got pretty sore, so I ended up getting bruising. And I think from how much it swelled up, I'm pretty sure I done a little bit of damage in there from how fat they got.
Wow.
So I had obviously I had it was tender from kicking with it, but on the side here I had something with the ligaments or something that would have just been a little tear or something little anyway. I'm pretty sure that was purely from just how fat my foot got.
Well, I know you had to move your friend moved his wedding so that you could be there. I imagine your speech would have started with, I would have given an arm or a leg to be here.
Hey, I missed that one. Hey, that would have been good.
We got to get us on the speech crew, man.
Oh, mate, look, I nailed the speech, and now you're making me second guess my speech. I done well with the speech though. I was pretty happy with that. I had to go after Eli's brother, and man, did he do a speech? I'm like, far out. Who put him before me? I couldn't believe it. But I done all right. It was good. The wedding was good. It was good to obviously be there. I got to drink, and that was like my first proper drink since I've come home. My ankle ended up swelling back up, so I had to stop. Towards the end of the night, I stopped drinking, and I had to get my antibiotics because it started swelling up and getting red and hot again. So I don't think the infection was fully gone. So I had to do another cycle of antibiotics straight after that. So at least I got to drink that. So it's all good.
That's good. That's good. And it's good to hear that you're feeling a lot better and the body is healthy now. But I mean, of course, you have this fantastic victory over a legend in Jose Aldo, and then you come back and then you find out Frankie Edgar is getting the next title shot. What was your reaction when you saw that?
Well, I was in the hospital. So when that actually come out, I was like 40 plus degree fevers, and so I was out of it. And they didn't want to tell me straight away, and I was asked for the phone, but they just didn't give it to me. And like I said, I was out of it to realise what was going on. But then woke up in the morning, and I was like, oh, where's my phone? Like, I just wanted my phone. And they're like, oh, should we tell him? And then they told me the news. But, I had so much on my mind. Obviously, I was dirty on it, and like, what the hell? But, again, I always try and stay positive, even while you're in a hospital bed, worrying about your leg being chopped off, getting the title off you. You know what I mean? It was it was hit pretty hard all at once. But at the same time, I was like, all right, well, it is what it is. I'm still looking at, let's get this leg better. I still want that title by the end of the year. So, that still looks like that's the plans anyway. So let them fight. If anyone was going to grass cut title in front of me, I'm glad it was Frankie. You know what I mean? Frankie is someone that does deserve it. He's been around. He's done great things for the sport. He is a top bloke, so good on him. But at the same time, if he wins or if someone gets injured on July 26, I'm filling in for that spot. And I'll take that title on. I'll be ready. I'm going to stay fight fit. I'm going to stay on weight. But if not, whoever wins can take me on later that year. I want that belt before 2019. That's my goals. I want one more fight, and I want that belt before the end of the year.
Well, we had Coach Eugene on the show as soon as sort of you got your victory and that was announced. And he said that Israel Adesanya, he was pretty upset when he heard the news and said that he'd be willing to sort of delay his fight with Robert Whittaker to a little bit later in the year to make sure the winner of the Holloway and Edgar fight is ready to defend against you in the co-main event. I mean, what do you think when you hear something like that? A teammate wanting to make sure you can make the card and willing to move the fight just to make sure you can be on there with him?
Well, it's an unreal feeling, you know what I mean? Like, just shows you what type of bloke he is. Even all of them, even Eugene and all that, they were, again, like obviously I fight out of Freestyle Fighting Gym, and they're a gym that I go do my camp, so I'm a big part of their gym as well. And that just shows you how much I am a part of their team as well. So it's a great feeling for him to even say that, it's just unbelievable. But again, I don't expect him to, hold things off too much. Nothing's promised for me. Someone could get injured and all that. Hopefully he's just looking after himself. But at the same time, mate, I really appreciate it. And look, it could still happen. But again, we'll see what happens. Again, the UFC, that's still what the UFC planning. If they can get a quick turnaround up with one of the boys, if they fight, and then they can have a quick turnaround and get me on that card, fight for the title, they would love that. They would absolutely love that. But I mean, obviously, can't promise nothing yet till they fight. But Frankie reckons he would turn around and fight me later this year. Good on him for that. He is a man of his word, so I reckon he would do it. Max, you never know. Will he want to chase the 155 fight again or something? I don't know. Again, he hasn't made any promises. Oh, he did say something about never say never, never say never. Say that in one of his posts. So, you never know. But, I mean, I won't blame him if he doesn't want a quick turnaround against someone like me, but hopefully he does. Says the game, he says send me a contract and I'll sign it. Let's hopefully the guys send him a contract for that October card.
Well, looking at that matchup, Edgar versus Holloway, I mean, who do you think wins it? Because a lot of people are sort of thinking Max Holloway might retain, but Frankie Edgar's a veteran who's, always dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. And we're not just talking about being veteran and don't stylistically, but styles go so far in this sport. People really don't realize that. People try and, this guy beat this guy. How's he going to beat this guy? And they do that type of fight map and all that. Mate, styles make fights. Been happening for years. Like this triangle where one person can beat someone, but can't beat that guy, but that other guy. You know what I mean? You just get what I'm trying to say. That shit happens all the time. And in this instance, I know Max absolutely bashed Ortega, and Ortega beat Frankie. But I mean, stylistically, Frankie's a pretty hard matchup for Max. But whether he's fallen off the edge so much since his last fight, he is getting older. He's not getting any younger. He is aging now. He's been in the game a long time. He has had a long time off. Hasn't been fighting very regularly. So maybe he's not the same person he was. But if he is, he will give Max problems. He can set a high-paced fight. He's obviously got the gas tank, and then he's got the wrestling. So, we know what Max likes to do. He likes to press forward, punch in volume. He does get hit, which is why I'm a very bad matchup for him. But I'm not worried about Frankie landing big shots, but the fact that he'll be able to handle the pace and then he's got the takedowns while Max is trying to come forward, I think he could win a decision. I really do think that. But again, if Frankie gives Max Holloway troubles, I'm going to give him major problems, and that's for sure. And we'll see what happens. But again, I'm a bad matchup for Max Holloway, and people can say what they want until it happens, and everyone will believe me after I get it done.
Well, I think the UFC would be foolish not to put you on the ESPN desk to break down this fight, because you did a fantastic job of it, Alex. I wanted to sort of expand on what you just touched on. Who do you think is more challenging for you at this point, Frankie Edgar or Max Holloway? As you mentioned, styles make fights, right?
Yeah, exactly. I just think, again, no one's really a bad matchup for me, to be quite honest. I'm that well-rounded. I can always adapt. Your worst type of matchup, my hardest fight, I believe, is someone like a Chad Mendes. People will sit there and say Frankie Edgar is sort of the same, but he's not as powerful as Chad. So I'm going to be too strong he's not as powerful as Frankie. I'm going to be too strong for Frankie and too powerful, you know what I mean? So I just think that'll really, and obviously I can deal with his pace and all that sort of stuff. And then I've got so many other tools. Max, again, he's tough. He's got a major chin. So when I am landing them big bombs, there's a good chance he can take them. So he'll be in the fight for a bit longer. But, mate, again, I honestly think, Chad would be a harder matchup than Max. And that's not any disrespect to Max. Max done great things. Max done bigger things than what Chad has done. But stylistically, that's just what I think. And you've seen what I was able to do to Chad, even though I think that he is a harder matchup than some of these other guys. I'll always find a way to get it done. Yeah?
That's fascinating. So I guess in some ways, do you feel like your hardest test in the division, you've already passed that?
Yeah, Chad was definitely a big test. Again, that's why I wanted it. I knew where it would get me. But again, I believe I can beat anyone in the division. And so I'll fight anyone. So that doesn't really matter. But I'm a bad matchup for everyone. That's what I mean. Like, you got these guys that are, people, even with Aldo, people are sitting there being like, oh, yeah, he's takedown defense. You ain't going to do this. You ain't going to do that. How's Alex going to, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden I'm picking him apart on the outside and stuff like that. Who would have thought that? You couldn't tell me that I was going to be out of his range and, you know what I mean? And just sort of shut him down and, outpoint him that way. No one would have expected that. But it just shows you how much depth I've got and how far I can go this. You give me one problem, I've got that many other tools to throw at you, and then it's no longer a problem. I've got a different problem for you.
It's interesting because you mentioned obviously Max Holloway and the fact that he tried to go up to lightweight. A lot of people think he's kind of in a difficult position because it seemed like Dana White and him were kind of planning on him going up to lightweight, possibly winning the title there and sort of not fighting at featherweight as much because he's had those issues cutting weight and all of that kind of thing. What do you think about the position that he's in now? He's sort of the champion there, but do you believe that he'll be able to sort of hang around in the division for a while, or do you think eventually he'll have to move up?
Mate, look, I think he will eventually move up. He's probably heart set on featherweight right now. Again, I'm not one to talk shit, but I'll fight him and I'll make his decision for him, and then he'll go back up to lightweight. And again, that's just again, like if I'm planning on taking that title 2019. So once he feels that, why suffer in 145 when I'm the champ? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But again, he's probably got his heart set on featherweight, but that'll change soon.
See, you're a nice guy, Alex. You're helping people make decisions for them. I was going to say...
Exactly right. Who would have thought you could punch someone in the face and do them so much of a world of good?
Right? It's like a favor. I was going to say, what did you think when... I imagine you would have seen Henry Cejudo's massive win this past weekend over Marlon Moraes, and he expressed that he'd like to go up to featherweight at some point and capture a third belt.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane, Henry. Come on, mate. Now, look, honestly, what he done was unbelievable. It was good on him. I actually picked him to win. I didn't expect him to have so many problems early. I knew the guy was powerful. Maybe the ankle was why he wasn't. Maybe that's why he was sort of cowering to the kicks a little bit, if you get what I mean. He was sort of pretty flat-footed in that. I thought he would have done a little bit more on the outside to make it a little bit more difficult for someone like Moraes to just load up big kicks like. But again, that could have been the ankle. So for him to overcome that and get it done, good on him. Him coming to 145, again, you're going to be quick in this division, but we're still quick, and then we're just a whole nother powerful type of beast, and we're pretty, we're a stacked division. That's a lot of very tough guys in our division. I don't think you'll want any of that, but maybe we'll give it a crack. Maybe UFC will let him do it, but that'll change quick.
I mean, if you ever had to sort of fight him, if you ever moved up to the division, how do you see a matchup between you and him playing out?
Well, he ain't going to take me down, and if he does, I'm getting back up. And again, I've got the cardio. And then I'm just going to be too powerful. And again, I'm good on the outside. He's going to be a lot shorter than me. You've seen what I can use in my range, even with tall people. Imagine what I could do to someone half my size. That'll be interesting. But look, man, again, he's an athlete. He really is. He's explosive. He still would be dangerous and quick, but at the same time, you know what I mean? I honestly think he'll just have a puncher's chance. But again, him being that light, I don't think that's likely.
I'm just wondering, what do you think about sort of where the sport's at the moment? I mean, Henry's a dual champion. We've got a lot of dual champions, and guys aren't really sort of defending the title in their divisions. It seems like people try and win a belt so that they could go up and win another belt, and so that they could go up and win another belt. And I guess before, everybody's goal was to be a dual champion. Now it seems like people are going to try and be a triple champion, a quadruple champion, until they hold every championship in the game. Does it sort of frustrate you being the number one contender and sort of already missing out on a title shot because Frankie Edgar's getting it, to see the sport sort of being in this position?
Yeah, man. Defend your titles far out. Like, I want to go for the third belt. Let's defend a couple, then go for it. You know what I mean? It's just getting ridiculous. You want to break a record? They're talking about I want to break records. Oh, right, that's what Henry said. Break a record and defend in both divisions, because no one's bloody done that. There you go. That's it. You're done. You've broke a record. Then you could go to your third one. Has anyone done that? No one's done that, have they?
Oh, no, Daniel Cormier did. Sorry, Daniel Cormier did that.
He defended his heavyweight, or didn't he just win it?
Well, he defended it against Derek Lewis. He won it against Stipe, and then he defended it Derek Lewis.
He did too.
I only say that because we were there, Alex, over there in New York City.
Okay, yeah, you're right. No, I take that back. I forgot about that.
We will let you go, Alex, because honestly, we could chat to you all day. You're a fun, loose bloke. Everybody knows that by now, but we don't want to be too greedy with your time. So we'll end it on this note. Ideal scenario. Let's say Edgar and Holloway, the winner of that, is healthy. When would you like to fight them? What's sort of a date or at least a month that you would like to fight, for the title and finally get your title shot?
That Aussie card would be perfect. It would be perfect for Australia. It'd be perfect for, our part of the world, and it'll just be great. That'll be unreal. Like, I really think that. Could you imagine a card like that? Could you really imagine a card like that? It'll be incredible. So that'll be ideal. Whether they would want to turn it around that quick, I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be the champion by the end of 2019.
And just quickly, I got to add, because we said this when Huge was on there, Huge from City Kickboxing. If you have Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker, or I should say Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya in the main event, you got one Aussie, in fighting for a belt. And then if you have two Aussies, you have Alex Volkanovski versus the winner of Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar. I mean, main and co-main events, it's unprecedented. Never in Australian UFC history, it would be foolish not to do that, right?
Exactly right. And I think the UFC, like I said, we're talking to the UFC. We told them what we want. They're going, look, that'd be perfect. Like, we're saying, when are you thinking of us having that fight? If they go, look, that October card you want would be perfect, but we just need to see how that goes with that fight. And obviously we need to wait. They can say as much as they want that. Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Someone gets injured, it doesn't happen. But co-main event for the title, and then the main event for the title as well. You know what I mean? Imagine if it was Max as well. So Hawaii's not too far from Australia. Is that still Australasia?
Not
no,
quite.
unfortunately.
We love the
No.
Hawaiians, so we'd love to claim. But just to clarify, so the UFC are on board. We don't know how long it'll take for those guys to recover, but that is their goal as well. They want you on that co-main event spot, right?
Well, that's what they say. You know what I mean? But, they've probably promised a lot of things. I'm not having a dig at them. No, I am having a little bit of a dig at them. They've probably promised many things. But at the same time, look, man, there's so many things happening. Again, I'm not the one to dwell on things. Anything can happen. But at the same time, I'm going to put myself in a position where, I can't be robbed of opportunity. So I'm going to be ringside. Like I told you, I'm going to Canada. I'm going to be fight fit. The UFC know this. They know if there's an injury, I'm there. I'm ready. I'm going to be on weight. I will take that fight. You get what I mean? I'm not going to let these opportunities pass up just in case I do get robbed of another opportunity. So I'll be there. They're aware of it. They're happy that I'm keen to do that. And, again, it's fell through twice before this title fight. Who's to say it won't happen again? I wish them well. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but I'm there if it does.
Well, guys, it's going to be exciting to see what happens. You could be seeing Alex Volkanovski fight for a title sooner than you think. We've seen what's happened to Max Holloway in the past. Who knows what's going to happen? But with that, make sure to follow him on Twitter and Instagram, and of course.
One more thing. If I do get a late replacement and I take that belt, I will probably back it up in that Australia card as well. So you have an Aussie champion defending his belt on that card. So I'm the type of person that would do that. Title fight money looks a lot better than what we're on right now. So I'll be happy to fight regularly.
Wow. So there you go. Either way, likely to see Alex Volkanovski on this massive Australian card. And like Casper said, it would be history making. The Australian people have been waiting for a card like this since the UFC began. So hopefully it all comes together. Of course, follow Alex on Twitter and Instagram. Alex, thank you so much for your time. We don't want to be greedy. We want to let you go out there. Look at that. Beautiful green. Look at that. Beautiful out there in Australia. And we can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. See you later.
Thanks,
Alex. See you, mate.
Bye.
This is Chael Sonnen, and you are listening to Submission Radio.
Joining us here on the program is a man leading the charge for MMA in New Zealand after showing a ton of heart in his last fight. He will take on James Wick in one of the most exciting fights on UFC San Antonio in July. The Hangman is in the house. Dan Hooker, welcome back to Submission Radio. It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, it's good to be on. It's always a pleasure talking to you, lads.
It's always fun when you come on the show. Now, Dan, gotta ask, man, it's been a little while since we've spoken, so we have to ask, how did the real estate course go, and how many houses have you sold thus far? We imagine there's been, 100, 1,000. Don't tell me 10,000 houses, Dan.
Half of Auckland, mate.
How did it go? How'd the real estate course go? Are you selling houses yet?
No, that's something I set up just for later in life. I just felt like I had a bit of time, so may as well be productive with that spare time, as opposed to just sitting around and twiddling my thumbs.
Okay, so it's something that will it's like a plan, a scheme that you will unhatch potentially at the end of the career. Did you finish the course at least? Are you certified and qualified now?
Yeah. No, I finished I finished all the qualification and that. So if I do, and when I do decide, it'll be fairly straightforward.
I feel like the UFC is going to change their contract to pay you in houses rather than purses. A bonus is a small apartment in the bad side of town, but there's a big upside in 10, 15 years when the neighborhood gets big, right, Dan? All right. Well, you spoke to us last time about feeling good and sort of getting back to training. Tell us, how's your health after that Edson Barbosa fight? Are you back to 100%? And are there sort of any effects that you're still sort of dealing with after that fight?
Nah. That was ages ago. Yeah, it was mainly just superficial stuff, and yeah, like my coaches and that just took a bit more time just to get me back in there because they've been around the game like a very long time. But yeah, it was just mainly superficial stuff. I felt like I could have been back a lot sooner.
Have you sort of been itching to get back in there? I get the sense that you sort of, wanted to get back there a little bit sooner than you are now.
Yeah, well, this is the longest layoff I've ever had. 10 years of fighting professionally, I've never sat out for this amount of time. So it's definitely something that's kind of reinvigorated that itch. And yeah, I'm just ready to get back in there and fight, man. I miss it.
Well, it seems like you kind of really had to campaign for your next fight. Like we saw on Twitter, you were tweeting out, you were sort of trying to get fights together, and you got James Vick now, but ultimately, did you have any other names come across your desk? And how hard was it to get this James Vick fight together for you? Was it something the UFC offered? Was it something where you had to sort of go after it a little bit? Take us into the process.
No, they got in touch with me. Yeah, I was harassing Sean Shelby for a fight for a while, and then they booked their schedule out so far in advance, especially in the lightweight division because it's so busy and it's so packed. They book it out, at least 4 or 5 months in advance. So the only thing he could give me was that UFC 240 in Canada. And I was quite happy to go to Canada, and then he came to me, just a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, if you're good to go a week earlier, I could get you James Vick in Texas. And I was like, yeah, I'll jump straight on that fight. Puts me right back in the mix with a win over James.
You're absolutely right that it does put you back in the mix. James Vick obviously is still a big win in the lightweight division. What do you think about fighting in his hometown of Texas, though, and sort of going all the way and fighting in his own backyard?
Yeah, that doesn't bother me one bit. Going over and fighting someone in their backyard. I fought in Auckland twice now, and I just know what comes with that. A lot of pressure comes with fighting in your own backyard. And at the end of the day, it's not like they can all get in there and help you out. They can just kind of scream and shout and make a lot of noise. So yeah, it's nothing really for me. I kind of enjoy it. I kind of enjoy whether they're screaming for you or against you, you can get some kind of energy from them.
I mean, he's had an incredible run just like you in the division, but he has lost a couple back-to-back. What have you thought of his last couple of performances?
Yeah, well, they're against pretty tough guys. Gaethje's top 5 and Felder. That was a tough fight. I haven't watched him. I just seen him from memory. I leave all the watching film and breaking them down to my coaches. I just kind of, from memory, I remember the Gaethje fight, and then I remember a tough fight with Felder. It's not like he got smashed or things like that. He popped all bloody Paul Felder's lung, so it kind of been that easy of a night.
Well, when you remember that about, obviously him popping Paul Felder's night, do you sort of anticipate this one being a bit of a back and forth war?
Yeah, that's definitely something. When you get to a certain level, you have to be prepared for it. You have to be prepared to kind of dig deep. He's world class at the end of the day. He's ranked 15th. I feel like he should be a lot higher. I feel like there's a lot of guys out there that don't want to fight James Vick. He's not a lot of guy. He's not a guy that a lot of people are calling for his name. So yeah, he's a tough fight, and so I think the UFC knew I'd kind of jump on it.
I was going to say, how do you feel you match up against him if you sort of compare his style? I think you're right about him not getting the respect that he deserves. He's a big, tall guy. How do you feel you sort of match up against him?
Yeah, it's a new challenge. He's the tallest guy I've ever fought, 6'3". So yes, it brings like an interesting challenge. But I guess I just get to show new and different parts of my game. So instead of doing the things I usually do, I get to kind of change it up a bit, and just experiment a bit more.
I'm expecting to see a flying triangle after you said that, Dan. I mean, you mentioned you learned a lot from that Barbosa loss. I mean, what kind of Dan Hooker should fans expect to see come July? Casper mentioned that it might be a real barn burner. James Vick is a super tough guy, but at the same time, after going through that experience with Barbosa, have you sort of learned some new tricks and some new approaches to being in fights like that? Or do you imagine it'll be a very similar sort of Dan Hooker to what we've seen in the past?
I feel like I'm always developing and always getting better. I just see where I'm going with my game, and that's it's getting a lot clearer to me now. I see the fighter that I'm training to be, and that guy is a very hard fight for anyone. And so I'm just working away each day, and continuing to grow and develop. Yeah, just improving everything. But I've experienced that level. I've experienced that elite class, and I feel like now I just have something to prove.
It's a fascinating mentality what you just said. You're sort of seeing the fighter that you want to become in the end. I guess it's kind of like you're catching glimpses. It's like a project that you're constantly working on. How I guess close do you feel like you are to sort of becoming that optimal version of yourself? Because in some ways you're going to a goal that still isn't kind of apparent, right? You're still figuring out what that best version of yourself is, right?
Yeah, I can see with my game, it's you have short-term developments or things you're working over the next 3 months and 6 months and year and 5 years. And so I feel like I'm still, in the early stages, man. I feel like I have a lot of growth and a lot of things I've been working on, and they just haven't, all gelled together or clicked together just yet. But I feel like it's something that could happen fairly soon.
I mean, that sounds like something that Coach Eugene would be behind as well. He always talks to us about how he looks into the future for fighters and what they're going to look like in the future. But you mentioned how tough James Vick is. What do you think a win over him sort of gets you in terms of getting you back in the mix and back on track to eventually getting that title shot? What do you think a win like that gets for you in the division?
Yeah, I feel like it's a big one. I feel like you get a name over him. A win over him. You get I get to call out another guy that no one wants to fight in that top 10, or even the top 15. But picking names and things like that is just really not something I'm get that into.
I mean, you did. I was going to say, Casper, you did call out Paul Felder in the post-fight interview, so there's some thought behind there, but we can understand what you mean when you say that.
I just called him out because he was standing there. There's no real. If I can say something to a man's face instead of on Twitter, I'm definitely gonna side with that option.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like Justin Gaethje is sort of still in your sights down the line? I remember you had a really funny call when we spoke to you a few interviews ago where you sort of said you want to beat that guy while he's sort of still around, while he's still sort of, before he racks up too many losses. Is that a guy that's sort of, in your sights sort of down the line? Because he's on a great run at the moment.
Yeah, he's on a great run. He's getting some very good results, very good quick knockouts and good results as of late. Yeah, for sure. He's top number 5 in the world. If he's someone that I have to go through, then he's a great fighter. He's a good fighter.
That would be an amazing fight. In my dream world, to be on that super card later on in the year in Australia with your teammates Israel Adesanya, Alex Volkanovski. I mean, that would be fantastic. But let's quickly talk about the division, because Tony Ferguson had a crazy fight with Cowboy Cerrone, another guy who I think would be a fantastic fight for you, just this past weekend. I know you're not a big fight watcher, but did you manage to catch that one? And what did you think of what Tony looked like and what Cowboy looked like in that fight?
Yeah, I felt like Cowboy came with a good fight. Like he came with he does what he does every time. He doesn't really adapt his game too much for his opponents. He just brings what he brings to the table, and a lot of guys can't hang with him. Tony is just a mess. Tony is just the craziest fighter in the world. Like it's ridiculous. Like it comes down to it. He's just tough, man. He's just tougher than these guys, and he just goes out there and he just brings it, man. He's a very unique fighter.
I was going to ask, where did you stand on sort of that punch that happened after the bell? I feel like Tony was on his way to winning regardless, but what did you think of that little moment that I guess, people kind of latched onto?
I feel like it was, I thought it was legit. I thought it was a good, I thought it was like you're in a fist fight, man. Like Cowboy just hit him. He's standing in range and puts his hands down. Like it's, the ref's job to get in the middle and break it up. Like, things like your emotions get the best of you. You just want to hit the other guy. So I can't. Yeah, I wouldn't blame him. I didn't think it affected the way that fight was going, regardless.
I mean, we mentioned Justin Gaethje before for that big super card, but Cowboy Cerrone is another guy that's in your division now, and he'd be looking for a fight too. And he's a guy that has fought really sort of anybody. He's a guy that likes to stay busy and keep things going. If you do win after James Vick, I mean, Tony, Khabib, Dustin, they're all tied up. Cerrone might be looking for a fight. Who excites you more in that big super card? A potential fight with a guy like Cowboy Cerrone or a guy like Justin Gaethje? What would be the dream scenario for you?
I guess I would side with the. If I could pick, you would go with the higher ranked fighter, but it all comes down. Like a lot can change between now and even my next fight. So I feel like I'll have a name ready by that time comes. When that time comes in 5 weeks, I'll have a name ready to call for that card. Have they announced that card yet?
Which one? The Australian card?
Yeah. When's that going? October is what I heard.
It looks like it's going to be October, but they're being a little bit cheeky and tight-lipped with it.
Yeah, I'll be pretty comfortable calling for a name once that card gets announced.
I'm also curious, while we're speaking of the lightweight division, a lot of people trying to figure out where Conor McGregor fits into the swing of things. Obviously, you've got Dustin fighting Khabib. You've got Tony Ferguson sort of waiting for the winner of that. Nate Diaz has gone out of the division and he's moved up. If you're looking at Conor McGregor, who sort of makes sense for him to fight? I believe it looks like he'll be fighting in November. Do you think he gets Khabib, or do you think there's another fight that makes sense for him?
Nah, I don't think he's gonna fight. But
you think he's done?
Yeah, I think he's done. Why would you?
He was challenging Mark Wahlberg just this week. Sounds like a man who's still into the fight game, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Sounds to me like he's ready to go. Nah, I don't think he'll fight again. I think he's done his dash. Or he might do they need to do that Nate Diaz number 3, like a fight like that. Like fight another guy that is not like active and kind of more relevant in the division. Just fight like another guy that can come straight in from holiday and fight at middleweight or something, and then go back on holiday.
Well, while we're talking about these dream matchups like Conor McGregor versus Mark Wahlberg, we have to possibly get the most important question of the whole interview in here, and that is, who wins between Justin Bieber and Tom Cruise? And also, most importantly, which side? You have to pick sides here, Dan. We don't, you're not Switzerland. Which side would you be on? Team Bieber or Team Cruise?
I've been avoiding this. I know.
Well, this is where all the tough questions get asked. Yeah, this is serious. This is like Larry King on
put on the spot. Well, I did watch. I have seen Mission Impossible a few times. And
great movies.
Which one? Was it the first one, the second one,
the
third one?
The first
one. Oh yeah, that one's confusing.
Tom Cruise does his own stunts, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to side with old Cruisey.
I'd love to also see you studying tape of Justin Bieber or Orlando Bloom. There's a lot to analyze there as well, you know.
You'll make his head explode.
Whose corner do you think Huge would be in? Gun to his head.
I think you would just give up on the game and just go home and not come out until that fight's over and done with.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what he would do.
Just quickly as we wrap things up, and by the way, I agree with you. Tom Cruise could be Justin Bieber in any role. Even Jerry Maguire could lay the smack down on Justin Bieber's ass. Give us your prediction on how this fight with James Vick plays out. Obviously, we know you're ready. You've been ready to go for a while. Is there a scenario that sort of plays out in your head as to how you see this fight going in July?
At the moment, I'm just kind of like pushing hard and with my conditioning and things like that, getting in shape and just experimenting with new things. Like this is a new test for me, fighting a guy this tall and with that kind of style. So yeah, I'm kind of figuring it out. I'm trying new things at the moment. So I'm in my like trial and error phase at the moment. So I'm trying some things, some don't work, some work. So I'm kind of putting my attack together at the moment. So I feel like in a couple of weeks when I'm finished and I'm very focused and I have my plan and what I intend to do more sorted out, then I'll be able to make a pretty clear, I have a good reasoning behind how I think this fight plays out.
Just make sure to text us when that comes through. Just a few lines, just so we can read it out on the show. Yeah.
I was going to say, even though you didn't give a prediction, that was a fascinating answer and also a very candid one that you sort of, putting a bunch of things together. So it makes it even more intriguing to see, what kind of version of Dan Hooker we see, against James Vick in Texas. As we let you go, Dan, just quickly, we noticed you had your last episode of Frenemies, your MMA show on Maori TV in New Zealand that, of course, you do with Israel Adesanya. Is that it for good, or will we be seeing another season?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think my manager's just shopping it around at the moment. Maori TV still owe me a bunch of money.
Do they really?
They're like the pride of TV channels.
Owe me a bunch of cheese. So when I get that and I can move on, I'll be ready to go.
So you haven't been paid for Frenemies?
Well, the way I understand the contract is if you have a contract for a certain period of time and then you do half of the contract and they end the contract, they have to pay you for the remainder of a contract. That's the purpose of a contract. Am I right?
Well, I feel like this is the real estate course coming into play. Yes, I believe you are.
I believe it's pretty straightforward, but it seems to be something that they have misunderstood.
I feel like once they give you that contract money, we'll see a tweet from you. Thanks for the cheese.
Thanks for the
and
cheese.
Then we won't see you on TV ever again.
I'm gonna get it.
Man, I'll tell you what. All right, everybody write angry emails to Maori TV and make sure Dan gets paid. We don't like to hear this. And guys, of course, make sure to visit Dan's gym, the Combat Academy New Zealand. That's combat-academy.co.nz. They just had their first birthday. Go train and meet Dan Hooker, as well as follow Dan on Twitter at Dan the Hangman, and of course on Instagram, Dan Hangman. Dan, congratulations on the first birthday of your gym. We can't wait to see you come back in July. And thank you so much for coming onto this episode of Submission Radio. We might be looking for a house down in your neck of the woods, so we'll give you a call personally later.
I'll sort you out, boys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate it.
Cheers, lads. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Ariel Helwani, and you're listening to Submission Radio with my two favorite mates, Dennis and Casper.
Our next guest is coming off one of the most spectacular head kick knockouts in UFC history. That's right, when she beat Jessica Ai this past weekend at UFC 238. Not only that, but she thanked the crowd in three different languages. The UFC flyweight champion, Valentina Shevchenko. Welcome back to Submission Radio. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure every time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Valentina. I assure you the pleasure is all ours. So let's get this straight. First of all, congratulations. But is it true? Did the president of Kyrgyzstan, and I believe his name is Zhinbekov Sudanbai Sharapovich, call you personally after this win this past weekend?
It's totally true. He called me right after the fight, same as he did when I first won my title, UFC title. He called me as well, so he personally called me and congratulated with this victory.
Wow. What did he say? I mean, he was congratulating you, but did he say anything particular to you?
Yes, he said that all government, all like president office, they was looking for the fight. They was looking fight and was like looking it live, and whole country is very happy. And it's like it was a big news like all around. And even he said like someone in the office they was crying. So he was very happy.
Wow, you're bringing people to tears on the other side of the world. That's amazing. Well, I mean, what does that mean to you when you get a call from the president, himself, to know that obviously he's watching it? Let's say he paid for the pay-per-view and is not streaming it, but also someone's been brought to tears. What does that mean to you?
It's mean a huge honor for me first. And from the second, it's like huge motivation to continue everything that I'm doing with the same dedication as I do right now. And of course, it's like when you are working hard on something, on your passion, on your way, and you sacrifice everything for it, and you are recognized by the highest level of your country, it's a huge honor.
Mm-hmm. I guess you're a big star everywhere. Obviously, everybody loves you here in Australia, New Zealand, America. But what do you have people that you used to go to school with? Old friends. I imagine you probably get a lot of people trying to contact you and tell you how proud of you they are. That must be a pretty crazy experience, sort of having all those people from your life watching your fights and being so proud of you.
Yes, of course. After the fight, every time everyone is congratulating me. Like it's not only about my home country, Kyrgyzstan, but all around the world, because we was living for a lot of years, like in different places. We've been living in Russia, in Thailand, 8 years in Peru. So everywhere they're like. I received message from everyone, and it's a very good time, and even more the best time after the victory.
Absolutely. Just quickly, where are you joining us now? We know you're in your car, but which country are you in right now?
U.S. Las Vegas. It's for last 4 years. It's our base where we are like training, living, doing everything. So for 2.5 years, we was living in Houston, Texas, and in last year and a half, we are living here in Las Vegas.
A lot of good gun shooting ranges in Las Vegas. So it makes a lot of sense to be there. Let me ask you about the fight. Have you had a chance to watch the fight back yet? I mean, it was relatively short, but have you had a chance to sit down and watch it?
I did watch the fight, and yes, I did it.
What did you think of it? What was your impressions of your own performance?
It was everything that I was expecting from the fight. Of course, I was expecting from Jessica, like attempting everything that she was like promising to do. And the most important when I was going into the fight, and I was feeling her energy, and it was like really like very secure person, and she was very secure in everything that she will do, like great fight, and she did everything that she could do. But in my side, like I have a lot of much more experience, and I just saw this hole, and I started to work on it. When I first like saw her stance, I knew that the spot in her body is open, and I started to work on this spot, work hard with hard kicks. And this is what made you think that I will go like there forever, because it was hard. And I could feel it. And that's why I just like changed direction of my kick in the last moment, and it went to the head.
So you did you sort of get a feeling from the early goings that that's how the fight was going to end? When you started targeting the body, you would have known that, all right, at some point I'm going to throw the head kick. Did you? And obviously a lot of people felt that you were going to beat Jessica Eye very convincingly. Did you expect it to be this quick and somewhat, I guess, easy?
You know, every time I train hard to get my to have my fight easy. This is a secret. You train hard and you get your fight like not the same way as on the training. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's also like hard. But this is the secret to train every time hard. But you know, from the first kick that I made to her body, I knew that this is the point. This is the what I wanna do. But at the same time, I knew it's not gonna last all 5 rounds. It's from the very first kick. I knew that I will finish the fight sooner.
You've had a lot of fights in both Muay Thai and MMA. Would you say this is the most devastating knockout of your career?
I would say I had few similar like knockouts. And everyone was different. One was spinning kick, another one was spinning back fist, another one was like different. Every time it's different. But of course, like when you're fighting in high league and everything is bigger.
Let me ask you this, Valentina. Dennis and I, we're not exactly fighters, and I imagine a lot of people listening are not fighters either. So when you connect with a kick like that, you know, to someone's head, what is, I guess, going through your mind, and what does that moment feel like for you when you know that, you know, they're essentially knocked out?
It's the moment when I hit it, when my leg like reach the target, the head, and that moment, like your body is still reacting. I still went. I still like didn't know if is it like 100 finish of the fight, or will she be able to continue the fight. But in the halfway, when I go into her direction, I saw that this is it, and she will not stand up again. And that's why I even didn't try to continue my attack on the ground and continue like doing some hits onto her. But when it's reach, like the kick, when it reach the target, so you just feel that it went as you planned. Because sometimes it's hit not clear, sometimes it's more clear, but it's like you want to make a precision hit and you did it. So in that point, you are not thinking, you are not analyzing, because you are too much in it. You are too much in the motion. You don't you don't have a time to think about nothing. Your body is just reacting. And this is how what we are every time training to make our body decide what to do. Because if you are starting to think too much during the fight, you just can just lose your opportunity. You just cannot see the opportunity because you are thinking too much. That's why I'm trying to make my body work and react like very good, because I train my body for this.
Yeah, automatic, absolutely. Now that kick kind of reminds me in Casper of the kick that Holm knocked Ronda Rousey out with over here in Melbourne back in the day. Which knockout do you think was better? A lot of people are comparing your knockout of Jessica Eye to Holm's knockout of Ronda Rousey. In a lot of ways, your knockout was in a way even a lot more brutal. But how do you feel sort of people comparing both and trying to figure out which one was more brutal?
I don't know. I just make it for people to decide. I don't want to think about it. I just want to enjoy my 3 days before I started before I come back to the trainings. And I just don't want to think this like small things, because it doesn't matter actually who did it better, because every fight, every person is different. She did her knockout, I did mine, and this is it. And there is no like competition in it. No, I don't want to be part of it.
Sure. Well, I think the good thing is that, you know, your knockout is definitely one for the highlight reels. It's something that people will never forget. Do you think this win sort of changes people's perception of you, Valentina? You know, it was a scary knockout, and it almost feels like, you know, this is a turning point when people, they don't just necessarily see you as a dominant champion. People sort of see you as a scary champion, you know, a destroyer. Does it kind of feel like that to you?
You know, I every time say I'm truly martial artist. I can do everything. If you can see my fights in UFC, you can see that every my fight is different, and I just can do a lot of things. It doesn't matter that I'm only one side fighter, just dominant fighter, or going for submission, or doing like crazy stuff. No, I can do everything. If it's necessary, go and be aggressive, I can do it. If I have to be a little bit more careful and see the exact moment to hit, I will do it. So everything for me, it's just to be able to apply all my arts, what I have, martial arts, into live fight.
Obviously, the 125-pound division, you're the champion of it. But there aren't too many contenders just yet because the division is still pretty new. But is there anyone out there that kind of makes sense for you? Is there anyone out there that you see that you'd be happy to sort of defend your title against in the future?
With one who will be number one ranked in the my weight class, I will be gladly to fight her. But I can say that all number 10 contenders are very strong. All girls, maybe they don't have yet like names as, for example, bantamweight or strawweight already has names, because they already fought for a few years in UFC and everybody knows their names. But in flyweight, if, for example, there is no big names yet because it was not too much action in flyweight, it doesn't matter that there is no like very strong and dangerous fighters, because all number 10 contenders were very serious, and there is like some kinds of dangerous sides that has each one.
I was going to say, Caitlin Chikagian, she got a big win at UFC 238 earlier on in the card. So would you be happy to face her next if she is potentially your next challenge? Because as it stands, she's the number one. I think she will be the number one contender when the rankings change.
I say every time, I'm ready to fight. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter when. I'm ready to fight everyone.
You know, it's interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of new divisions in the UFC, and we've seen it happen with Chris Cyborg, or even a guy like Demetrius Johnson, where a division is sort of built around them. How does it feel to, in a lot of ways, the division is around because you're such a great fighter and so many people want to watch you fight. Is there any extra pressure that comes with sort of being the reason why the division is around and sort of being the face and the draw of the division, or do you sort of enjoy that aspect?
You know, to be the champion, it's every time extra pressure, because everyone looks up to you, and everyone's like measuring what you're saying. You just cannot say like any kind of silly stuff because you are the face. You are the face. You are the champion, and it's good. It's good. It's because everyone wants to be champion for make people listen to this person, and it's very good responsibility. Of course, it's double work, it's double pressure for sure, but here we are for this one to be successful in what we are doing. And if we are speaking exactly about me, so this is what I every time was looking for, to be the champion. Doesn't matter where I am, what promotion I'm fighting. Every time for me was the goal to go to the fight and be the winner, not just having fun on the fight, because it's not fun. When you get kicked like this, it's not fun at all. The fight, I would say, in general, it's not having fun. It's very hard work, but it's payoffs, everything payoffs, because your dedication, everything that you are spending into martial arts, you get double more. You get much more positive energy, like love over the fans and support. Their support, it's very important. And in my case, I enjoy all my travels to be able like to meet different people, to know them, and to share my experience with them, their experience with me. So it's coming back, my sacrifice coming back to me in double way.
Well, there you go. That's a. I like that quote. It's very spiritual of you, Valentina. I have to ask you though. At the post-fight presser, Dana White was asked about a trilogy fight between Amanda Nunes and yourself, and he said he'd rather sort of see you defend your belt a few times and Amanda defend her belt and possibly fight Cyborg again, and then maybe the trilogy fight makes sense. Is that fight of interest to you, and could you see it happening again, sort of somewhat in the near future, or are you sort of focused on 125 at the moment?
I every time responded because I have this similar question like a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Every time I responded, we have unfinished business with Amanda, and of course I see this fight happening in the future. But for now, I'm focused to defend my title in flyweight because I was waiting this division, and I was fighting every time in UFC with with the girls who bigger, heavier than me, and I have to be like more careful with this kind of girls because it's a different way to fight. But in flyweight, in 125, I just can be myself and explode me more. My techniques to show and my skills to show, and I just want to fight and defend my title like in this weight class, and just to finally to be in this weight class.
I was curious because I was watching UFC Embedded and I saw Amanda Nunes was actually, you there during fight week. Did you guys run into each other at all? And if so, did you say anything to each other? Were there any sort of awkward encounters? What's your relationship like with her at the moment?
We didn't have much relationship between us going, so it's like for example, about this week, we didn't see each other, even if we was like in the same kind of room. We was in different sides from each other. It's like I don't see any sense like because we are rivals, and it was from the beginning. I don't know, with some person you just feel that it's your like rival during the fight, during the time in the octagon, but with some people, I don't know, maybe it's her like personality, some kind of because I don't know, we are not friends with her at all.
I guess you guys have had that many stare downs against each other. It's kind of hard to, there be zero tension. But it's interesting. You fought Amanda and Holly. Obviously, you have a win over Holly. If you could weigh in, who do you think wins that fight when they fight at UFC 239, in your opinion?
It's every time difficult to predict who's gonna win when two high-level fighters are fighting together, because it's like 50-50. You are thinking that how it was Amanda and Chris. Everybody was thinking that Chris Cyborg gonna win, but in the same moment when it's like open exchange of hits, it's 50-50. You can hit, you can be successful, or your opponent can hit and she can be successful. That's why it's difficult to predict. But personally, me, I will cheering for Holly Holm because I like her style. I like her way to see martial arts, and she every time showing her passion for martial arts, and just I like how she's like being the person inside and outside of the octagon, because that's why I'm cheering for her on this fight.
It would be great to see you guys fight each other again down the future. But let's talk about yourself. You mentioned you're in Las Vegas. It's been a few days since the fight. Tell us, how are you feeling right now, and how soon would you like to fight? How soon until you fight again? Are there any injuries that we may not know about from this past weekend that you want to sort of let heal up before you think about coming back into the cage?
Not much injuries, just like bruises. It doesn't count, and I'm feeling pretty healthy, and I'm ready to get back after small rest because even your body doesn't have any injuries. Still, your mind has to rest because it was huge pressure during all preparation, like first title defense. Of course, it's huge pressure. More fight week when you have to do all media stuff in the same time, training in the same time, do everything that you have to do. So it's huge stress for body and mind, and I have to make up everything and recover all my lost energy, and I will be ready to come back to the gym and continue start maybe my preparation. So actually I'm ready maybe from here 3-4 months, and I want to come back and fight again. Yeah.
Nice. I was going to say, how do you relieve that stress, Valentina? I think I saw you on Instagram, you were shooting guns just the other day. Is that kind of like a stress reliever for you? And what is it about shooting guns that is like so therapeutic for you?
For me, it's one of the biggest passion in my life, shooting guns and participating in defensive shooting competition. When we were living in South America, in Peru, we compete a lot in defensive shooting competition. My sister Antonina, she's champion of Peru in the organization as IDPA.
Wow.
IPSC here in United States, it's called IPSC, and three-gun competition. And this kind of competition, it's not just about precision, it's about power, accuracy, and precision. And you have to deal with your gun. You have to be able to fix any problem during the exercise, what you are doing. And it's very you are starting with a gun in your folder, and the sounds is beeping, and you start your exercise. You can run, you can shoot from different position, you can shoot from the sitting position, standing lane position. So there is different targets, moving targets, still targets. And I would compare it like, for example, in martial arts we have MMA, universal fight, what including everything. In shooting, this is kind of like competition. It's shooting MMA because there is everything inside of them.
Wow.
If there's ever a zombie apocalypse, I know whose house I'm going to go spend time in, Valentina. Save a room for us. I'm curious to find out. Obviously, shooting's so much fun. What do you enjoy more? Do you love doing martial arts or shooting more? What's more fun for you?
There is no comparing. It's both. I very enjoy to spend time. Of course, when you are shooting, you are competing with targets. It's different. When you are training, you are competing or training with your sparring partner, and it's hard, of course. It's different kind of pressure. But I enjoy to do both things a lot. Martial arts, for me, it's my life. It's my passion, it's my philosophy, it's my religion, it's everything. And shooting is the same, very big part of my life. Yeah. And there is no things as compare one to each other. No.
I love that you said the fighting is your religion. I think that's another really kind of cool Valentina Shevchenko quote that'll, go down in the history books. We could chat to you all day, Valentina, but we don't want to be too greedy with your time. Guys, make sure to follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Bullet Valentina, the UFC's flyweight champion, coming off a massive and devastating win this past weekend. Thank you so much for your time, Valentina. Congratulations on the win. And I believe you might be going on a holiday, right? You said you're going to spend your performance bonus on a holiday. Where are you going to go?
And travels.
Yeah,
and travels. I will spend it all travels. Now we are planning to go to China because UFC Performance Institute, they have grand opening in Shanghai. So we are going there to be part of this grand opening. And I would like to stay there for a few days more just to see this country and this beautiful city and enjoy and just have a little bit more travels. But one more thing about upcoming fight, there is like few places where I would like to travel more, and I never traveled before. One of these, it's Australia. Australia, it's right. And I, in the past, I had opportunities to travel to Australia for a few times, and every time it's never came to the I won't be able to travel there, and it's still in my to-do list, travel to Australia and to see how people live there, because very funny. One of my favorite movies, it's Crocodile Dundee with Paul Hogan.
Yeah.
And because I'm the outdoor person, and this kind of hunting, like being outdoors, it's very close to me. And this like movie character, what Paul Hogan give in his movie, it's like very close to me, because it has like free spirit and very honor person with a lot of mind and like good things that he showed in his movie, and it became one of my favorite movies. That's why I very love to have this opportunity in future to visit one day Australia.
Yeah, I mean, the Aussie fans would absolutely love that. I was going to say, it looks like there might be an Aussie card in October, it seems like it. I think there's going to be other title fights, but if they don't pan out, is that something you might be interested in, fighting here in October?
Of course, and I think with timing it would match good with me as well.
All right, well, we'd love to have you, and there's a lot of fun activities here to do in Australia if you come down. So again, follow her on Twitter and Instagram at @Valentina, and thank you so much for your time, Valentina. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. Have a good day. Bye.
And there you guys go, Valentina Shevchenko, UFC flyweight champion. So happy to have her grace us on the program cast just days after that ridiculous knockout over Jessica Ai. Unbelievable. The thing is, when you wear a bulletproof vest during fight week, you give people ideas to start throwing things at the head. So I don't know if the bulletproof vest thing really worked out for Jessica, but we hope she has a quick, speedy recovery. She's always been a friend of ours down here on the program. Now, as we wrap up, I mentioned in the intro cast review for the new X-Men movie. I believe it's called Dark Phoenix, but, no fact-checking on this program. Can't be fucked. But Timothy Johnson mustache rating. It's been a while. So let me just quickly set the scene here, and we'll let you guys go. I went and watched this movie. I had no expectations from it. To be honest with you, I didn't really want to watch it. I had nothing really to watch at the cinemas, but I wanted to get in there and sort of get my movie-going experience on. I went and watched it. James McAvoy's in it. Michael Fassbender's in it. Jennifer Lawrence, a few other people, the chick from Game of Thrones. And I think she's married to the Jonas guy. And, I'll tell you this. I went in thinking it was going to be an absolute piece of crap. And I was actually surprised, Cass. It was a lovely experience. It was a standalone story. They already had done something similar with Jean Grey, where she sort of does the whole Phoenix thing and flips out on everybody. But I actually enjoyed it. The action was really, really good. James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender. Man, they have a really great chemistry between them. And you kind of forget about it until you watch this movie. It's weird. I kind of got a bit teary-eyed in certain bits of the movie. It was kind of like, it's kind of the end of a chapter. And the funny thing is, so these guys, right, they've always kind of been the replacement guys. Like, no one really looked at them as, all right, these are the new guys. We're going to go, kind of go with these guys. They're kind of the replacement guys. And then they kind of became we don't really want to do this movie, but we signed a contract, so we'll do it, guys. And now it's like X-Men's a part of Marvel, and none of this really fits into anything they'll be doing. So it was kind of one of those throwaway movies where they owed it on their contract. They had to do it, and they just sort of phoned it in, and they did it. But just some real genuine moments in this movie. I really recommend people check it out, especially when it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray. The chick from Game of Thrones was all right. She was all right. She's not a bad actress. James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, a lot of great interactions. The action scenes are super, super cool. Man, you know what? Like, I just love Magneto. I love seeing those guys do their things. You could say it's like an X-Men light. Like, you don't have your Wolverines The guy that plays Cyclops looks like a dweeb, but overall, it's a really enjoyable adventure if you don't really go in expecting much. So I'm giving it 3 out of 5 Timothy Johnson mustaches. I don't really know what's going to happen with the franchise, but obviously Marvel's going to be doing something with it. I'm curious to see what happens with it next. But I think it's kind of one of those things where it was going to be a shit show regardless. James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, they went in there like... kind of like, I can't be fucked doing this, but let's go. Like, we're contractually obliged to do it. And they could have really done a shit job, to be honest with you. Like, the script is pretty shit, but they pulled it off. There were a lot of deep moments, and the only reason they were able to do it was because of the depth of their acting and the fact that they have a great chemistry. So it's kind of sad, though, because... So, all right, so this is probably all going to be said and done. Like, those guys will probably be all done, and the Marvel's going to redo the whole thing. I feel like their chemistry was kind of swept under the rug because when people think of X-Men, they kind of think of like Hugh Jackman, and they do kind of think of like Neil Patrick Harris, fucking hell. What's his name? What's the guy's name? The bald guy cast?
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart. They think of Patrick Stewart and the other old guy and all that. That's kind of what they think of, right? When they think of X-Men. I feel like, so I don't think people really kind of give credit to these guys. And I thought X-Men Days of Future Past was actually a really fun movie. And I thought the one before that where it was like Michael Fassbender was like going through the concentration camps and James McAvoy was like a young version of Professor X. I thought that was pretty sweet as well. So they did a great job. It was bad timing for them. Now it's all said and done. It never really went anywhere. But regardless, this is a good way to finish it. So I recommend people check it out.
I'm glad he said that because I didn't even know this movie was out until a couple of days ago. Apparently the promotion has been just like super shit. And I read a review and apparently it's just been panned by everybody unanimously saying how it's just a terrible movie and it's even worse than X-Men Apocalypse. Another X-Men that I didn't really enjoy personally.
That was so shit, that Apocalypse movie.
Oh yeah, it was hot steaming garbage. And you are known around these parts, Dennis, as a pretty harsh critic. So I feel like when you say that it's actually a good movie, it speaks volumes. So you've single-handedly gotten me excited to see this movie, whereas before I had zero plans to. So
well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like Avengers Endgame, there's not going to be any spoilers here, but it comes to a point where you're like, all right, enough with this shit. You know, like you just want to watch it in a superhero movie where people go out there, fuck shit up, have great action scenes, and not like 100 million hours of thought goes to every single thing. And I think this is kind of like, I want to say like, so, you know, like if you're looking at the Avengers as like this intricate system, this is like, let's cut to the chase, kind of have fun, have some popcorn, have a good laugh, enjoy ourselves and get out of here type movie. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because I think superhero movies, I enjoy them, but they're also killing the movie industry. So I like just the fact that you can go in there, you can watch this movie. You don't have to wait till the end credits. There's no end credits. You don't have to wait to see what's next. There's probably nothing next. Those guys will probably never play the characters again. It's a one-night stand. You know, this isn't a 10-year relationship. Sometimes it gets exhausting for me. Oh, you watch the thing. Oh, well, this plugs into here. Oh, well, you know, it's too much.
I feel like, you know, I'm drawing parallels the way you compare Avengers Endgame and this movie between like, you know, it's like 90s porn where it's like a 2-hour bioepic with a storyline. And then it's like today's porn where it's like one guy, one camera, and like a taxi. And that's it. It's like, we're not fucking around here. Like, we're giving you exactly what you want. We're not giving you any fluff. And that's how I feel like you've described these two movies. Well, X-Men Dark Phoenix. It is, and you can quote this, Rotten Tomatoes, it is the today's porn of movies. There you go.
That's right, the fake taxi of movies, and get in there, enjoy it, and then don't tell anybody about watching it. Yeah. Just like you
wash
would
your
with
hands
fake.
afterwards.
Wash your hands afterwards, and it's all good. Just don't look in the mirror. But guys, that is the episode of Submission Radio. Big thank you for tuning in. Again, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't. If you're listening to this on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podcast One, know that there are video versions of this interview. If you want to see Valentina Shevchenko, Alex Volkanovski, Dan Hooker, John Morgan, check them out on our YouTube channel. There's some cool scenery in the background here and there, so check that out. And of course, check out our social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. All our messages are open, and we do our best to try and respond to all you guys. And we've had a lot of really lovely messages from all you guys about the program. So again, give us
the comments. The comments last week, man. I know they would have touched you big time, Dennis. Massive thank you to all the really, really nice comments last week, especially. And a pre-thank you for all the mad comments that are going to come for this week's episode. I can't wait to read them all and respond to all you guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact is this, I went on there and I read all those comments myself and actually showed it to some family members. And
wow,
that was really nice as well. So thank you so much to everybody about that. We will be back with another episode of Submission Radio next week. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we'll see you next week.